as Ruwangi has already, sorry about that. Okay, so as Ruwangi has already mentioned, so today we have Nikki Razoi, Aishwarya Kanskar, Sarika Kevalramani, and Alika Tanya as our most motivational speakers. Nikki Razoi is the CEO and founder of Exaptech Australia, which specializes in robotics platform solution development at an enterprise scale. Aishwarya Kanskar is the co-founder of Krillin Robotics Australia, which uses smart robotics to enhance human well-being and efficiency. Sarika Kevalramani is a senior lecturer in education and the founder of the All-Inclusive Robotics Play program. Alika Tanya is the director of operation at Zetsha. Thanks to all speakers for joining us today. I would also like to thank Munira Bano for giving us this opportunity to run the event as part of the Requirement Engineering Conference 2022. I would want to start off by requesting Dr. Ruwangi Fernando, as she has already mentioned, she is the founder of STEM Sisters, to say a few words before we move on to the panel discussion. Thanks.
Yeah. I'll quickly share my screen and I would run a very quick presentation. I hope everyone see my screen. I just using two devices. My laptop just failed on the audio, so I'm just connecting via my phone as well. So before I begin, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of Australia, owners who are and also the leaders of the past, present, and the emerging. So giving the tribute for this wonderful land in the areas that we live in. Currently, I'm in Melbourne, and there can be others who is joining around and around the country. So STEM Sisters is an organization dedicated for supporting STEM women of color. This was begun in 2017 as I came to Australia for my PhD and very soon realized the challenges particularly faced by STEM women of color. So why this initiative is important? Because if you look into the current workforce on STEM, there is so much of demand. Every year there are vacant 10,000 opportunities, 20,000 opportunities, constantly growing demand, and the predictions are for recent years and coming years are significantly high. But in an area, something like in STEM areas where the demand for employment is really high, you see unemployment, particularly for women of color in STEM. There are challenges for women. I'm not saying. If women are facing a glass ceiling, what women of color is facing a concrete ceiling or a bamboo ceiling, Manura would agree with me. So this is a challenge that we have looked in, particularly in the STEM Sisters and the STEM workforce. We wanted to really understand why these challenges are there, because it should work as a demand and a supply. And when these women are unemployed, currently in Australia, there is 56% of current STEM qualified women are born overseas. So that means majority are mostly women of color. In a setting, women who are born overseas face 4 times higher unemployment compared to women born in Australia. And also there is underemployment and the issues of retention. So this is the current segment. And also it's not just a humanitarian issue. Why is intersectionality matters? Intersectionality matters because it really brings diverse talent, which is one of the core importance of like in the STEM workforce, which is for innovation. So innovation is driven by diversity. And when you have this much of good talent source, well qualified, highly qualified, why these women are not employed, why there are challenges for them to be employed and retained in the STEM sector is the problem we are trying to look at. So here we see a leaky pipeline. So I'm not going to take you through, but in terms of in general, there are lack of role models, there are less of opportunities for women to kind of network. There are a lot of bias around for women of color. And also we see a lot of stereotypes that it's been written in a way that hinders the career growth of women of color in STEM. So STEM Sisters have a range of initiatives. I have listed here some, starting with an ambassador program. We have a separate LinkedIn group for creating awareness. We do separate advocacy and in terms of communicating with the society for the importance for diversity. We run separate events and workshops. We have a dedicated magazine called Magnify. We have a very unique initiative called Dress to Impress. We look into sustainability or also women's confidence in terms of how we kind of look. And we have a dedicated mentoring program. And also we have unique event called Soapbox Science, which is we have partnered with the UK organization in terms of delivering this in Melbourne. So these are, you'll be, if you're interested, you can find more about each and every initiative. But this particular group of students, students and graduates are part of the ambassador program of STEM Sisters. This is separate, done through with the partnership of Study Melbourne. So we had 54 ambassadors chosen out of, a big list. I can't remember, I think over 100 with expression of interest. We selected these 54 ambassadors and we take them through a training, and this is the part of the event delivery that they're engaged in, and also we provided some outreach opportunities. So this was done from last year till up to now. So basically they are part of the 2022 ambassador program. Range of universities across Australia. So part of event delivery, they were supposed to really engage with and develop their leadership skills, networking opportunities. So Manura was very kind enough to introduce, she reached out to me for providing an opportunity. And at the time she was with Deakin. So, and now she's at CSRO. Congratulations on the move, Manura. But Manura reached out to us, and then we also are working with the conference in terms of our project partners, and also I provided these two university ambassador students to really engage with this and deliver this event. So this is hard work by this group of students who's putting together this event today. So if you wish to find more information about STEM Sisters, you can follow us on these channels and get to know what we do and all our initiatives as well. That's all from my end. Thank you, Manura, for the opportunity all here, and good job, girls. Yes, thank you.
Thanks for that, Ruwangi. Always great to see your passion about bringing up the voice of the women of color. And also thank you so much for bringing us along with your growth and development. So I'll start up the panel discussion. So for the panel discussion, it'll be great to hear from all of our invited speakers for the first two questions, and then the remaining questions, we can maybe have volunteers, or if you would like to talk, you can say, you can talk. So I'll start with your professional life. Maybe if you could tell us what inspired you to begin working in the industry that you're now in. You could tell us more about your career path, or what brought you to this field. So maybe I'll start with Ale, because she's the first in my screen.
Yes,
And then we'll
yes. Yeah, hi. Hey guys. Well, like to me, what inspired me was just a coincidence. Like I really never planned. I didn't know what a startup was. And then on 2016, when I was looking for professional work, I started working for Live Hire, which is a Melbourne-based startup. And I really like the industry, and I like the startup world, and it is a world of opportunity if you let it, because there's so much to do in a startup and so little people to actually do those things. So then like you really get the opportunity to do things you never thought you were going to do. And then you kind of sort of find your way. And like currently I'm working in sort of like an industry that it didn't exist 10 years ago, which is retail media. So I think in my case, it was just, pure coincidence, but I really loved it. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I like the serendipity part, and yeah, startups are really like hot these days.
Yeah, and Melbourne is a great place, and Australia is a great place for startups and for like incubate ideas, because so many people from everywhere. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe we'll hear from Aishwarya next.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So for context and background, I'm from Kathmandu, Nepal. I was born there, lived there for around 16 years, and then moved to Japan by myself independently to do my undergraduate degree at university. And then came to Australia, Melbourne University for my master's. And then now I'm currently doing automation. And to be specific, I do robotic process automation, which is basically for everyone deploying server bots, which are programmed to automate manual, repetitive, boring tasks of humans, so their time gets freed up to do more productive things and enhance efficiency, right? So the reason I guess I picked automation as a subfield compared to all the other things in technology would be, one, it's very lucrative as an industry. Recently, there was a report by McKinsey where they did a research and they saw that around 32% of jobs in the world will be impacted by automation by 2030. So rather than being displaced in the long term by automation, I thought it's better to be a part of the change, which is why I picked the field.
It's great that we can do automation, but it's also scary on my part. But if I don't get into automation part, maybe I'll lose my job. But yeah, thanks for sharing your journey with us. Maybe we'll hear from Nikki.
I call mine quite an unexpected journey. I was a co-founder of an agile consultancy business, and part of the work that I did was doing workplace happiness conferences, which for some could seem like a contradiction in terms, but part of our experimentation there was to see how we could have international guests autonomously attending and moving around, and we came across the double robot, and that literally was the start of my journey. And this was about 8 years ago. We bought one in for a conference, and we had attendees come in from America and New Zealand, and it was such a success. We bought 15 and I sold those, and we decided to split the business because you can't really have an agile consultancy business and a robotics business. And Exaptic was born, and there my journey started. So it's been a huge learning curve for me, is all I can say.
It's very brave of you to get onto something new and combine two worlds. Yeah, thanks for sharing your story. So maybe we'll hear from our speaker, Sarika, next.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your experiences. So similar to everyone, probably more close to Aishwarya's journey. I'm an Indian immigrant, so I moved to Australia back in 2006, and I'm a teacher by trade. Perhaps more so coming from my science and maths teaching background. So when I arrived into Australia, I did my PhD and all of that at Monash University, and I was teaching. And whilst teaching, I realized how important science and mathematics subjects are to not only myself, upskill myself as a teacher and now as a university educator, teaching science, maths, and technology, developing STEM units became so important in this day and age to even teach young students, and hence was born the robotics play program in terms of how we can really uplift the education standards and ensure that our young learners are getting those skills when it comes to learning science, mathematics, which is literacy and numeracy in the early years, and to develop that continuum of learning of students' journey. So yeah, there you go. My journey is more so of a co-learner, and I have a lot more to learn when it comes to education, STEM education.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, because I think it's really important. Like, we start early from a young age and learn from the very beginning. So thanks for sharing your stories. We'll just ask a second question that everyone maybe can answer. So maybe if you could share us the biggest challenge that you remember that you faced when you're achieving your career goals, and share us how you navigated through it or how you overcome it. So if anyone wants to start.
I'm happy to go because, we get the circle again.
Okay.
I think to me it was more like my self-doubt, especially when it came to like my accent. So obviously you came new to Australia, obviously in an industry that I'm not familiar with. You have an accent, and I was all the time thinking about, what are these people thinking about what I'm saying? And then you start working in tech, and everyone has an accent. Everyone is from somewhere else. And it happens that I went to the Google offices in Sydney to like a conference, and everyone that was talking at Google had an accent, right? And that was like really powerful because it's about representation and something that I think you mentioned before, Rani, in terms of, once you start seeing what else is out there, you're sometimes so in your head that when you start seeing what else is out there and what people are doing, like at Google, like it's yeah, that was like, that sort of clicked in my head, and I guess it, how to overcome it is just basically just talking to different people, and someone would have experienced something similar for sure.
Yeah, I guess having an accent really, I think for me at least, it was a shot on my confidence. But yeah, it's great to hear that other people also experience that. It's not great to hear that, but it's refreshing to hear that from others' perspectives. So maybe we'll move on to Aishwarya.
Yeah, so many challenges. Oh my God, where do I start? Just kidding. But I think one of the biggest challenges that I've had is leaving my comfort zone. So I'm not sure if people know about this, but I did commerce, management, and finance throughout university in undergrad and grad. And I was very good at it. So all my grades were amazing, at Melbourne University as well. And I thought, it's a good life if you can just stick to something you're good at. You always keep winning. But to me, inside, I've always wanted to do technology. Maybe living in Japan influenced me a little bit, seeing how technology can impact things and lives and also economies. So I just had to leave everything in terms of stability and comfort and start from scratch when I started my second master's degree of computer science with artificial intelligence without a bachelor's degree or any education in science and tech. So that was a very big step for me. And it was leaving behind that comfort that kind of made me break through. And it was a do or die situation, right? You either go for it full on or you fail, which is not the best result. So that was really difficult. And I think one way I could navigate that challenge was by upskilling relentlessly. So every time I saw someone doing something that I wanted to do, I'd try to reach out to them, ask for advice, or I'd go to their LinkedIn and see what have they done before. Is it a degree? Is it a certification? Kind of like reverse map their journey, right? So, and once you can do that, I think, and once you reach out to them as well, I think you can get good advice. And then once you upskill, either it's your soft skills or your hard skills. So by hard skills, I mean things like if you can code or not. And by soft skills, it's stuff like how do you communicate? How do you negotiate? How do you manage projects? So once you have a good balance of that, I think you can overcome challenges, and that's what I did. Yeah, but keen to hear everyone else's challenges as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of bravery in your story. I was wondering, what helped you take that, get that push or take that first step to overcome your challenges? Because for some of us, I think it's taking that first step is the part that's the hardest. So could you share some information or what helped you take that push?
Yeah, I think it was more about if I didn't try, and in the future, let's say 10 years down the line, I'm, let's say, a manager at a financing firm or a bank, and I look back to my journey and I say to myself, I never tried, but I'm doing fine. But what if I would have tried? And I think that sort of guilt would have stuck to me 10 years down the line. So when I reflected on that, I just had to try now, even if I failed. It's worth trying. So, and now everything's worked out. So I guess obviously there's been hard work behind everything, but if I wouldn't have tried, I wouldn't have known. So I encourage everyone to try at least once.
Yeah, it's like that, what Yoda said, do or do not, there is no try. Yeah, so just do it. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Maybe we'll hear from Nikki.
Look, I think my biggest challenge, and I still suffer a little bit from it, is I'm not from a technical background. So when I started the company, what I knew about robots, I could probably write on a postage stamp. And it's just taken due diligence of sitting down and study it. And my co-founder of Exaptech was of Tabar, the agile consultancy company, was very technical. So of course, he assumed that I could just slip into this role effortlessly. It wasn't that effortlessly. And I think part of the challenges as I grew in my journey was to recognize that when I started, I literally did not know anything, and now my journey is quite different, and to reconcile the two people. So move away from what you were to what you're becoming, and stop focusing on what you were, because that's always going to trip you up. I think imposter syndrome is a word I want to banish from the English language if I could possibly help it. I've got a podcast that I speak to highly qualified, extremely capable and competent men and women, and this word pops up more than you could actually imagine. And I say to them, if they've got imposter syndrome, then I might as well just stay in bed, because, you know, they're so highly accomplished in what they're doing. But we're always comparing ourselves. And I think that's something I even say every day, and even listening to the women that I'm on this panel with, and you all highly capable people, is that's your journey. My journey is different, and you must recognize and celebrate your journey, because of course, you know, we've all got different stories. I'm also an immigrant to Australia. I've lived here 26 years. You know, I've got children. We all, you know, we've all got things that we bring with us that influence how we live our lives and what happens to us. So I think if I could give myself advice when I started out, was not be so hard on myself. I don't have to make as I know all the answers, because I certainly don't, and I still don't know all the answers. I maybe know very little bit about the area that I'm dealing in, and I'm quite comfortable with that, to say that there are people out there that know far more than I do, but I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to listen to them. So I think that's very important, is this as Wari said, this continual journey of being open to learning stuff.
Thanks for sharing those very inspirational words, Nikki. I mean, I hear you, especially with the imposter syndrome. It's so easy for us to compare ourselves with each other and see, oh, why am I not doing that? And yeah, and stuff like that. So it's really, really great to hear from someone that imposter syndrome should be managed, and it's okay to not know all the answers to everything all the time. So,
no, it's a very negative word, and it's negative for everyone. It's negative for the person who says it, and it's negative to the audience, because you don't know where they are on their journey, and you could literally cripple someone by, you know, saying like, oh, my achievements. And actually someone pulled me up on it and said it to me, and that made me actually realize so ladies, anyone listening on this talk today, if the word imposter syndrome ever comes up, just don't say it. Like, more for the person that you're speaking to, because, you know, you could unknowingly do damage, and that's not what we're trying to do in the world.
Yep, exactly. Maybe we can rename that imposter syndrome into something more positive? Would you have any suggestions into how to label that better?
I'm on my journey. I'm on my growth journey. You know, inevitably that's what we all are. Every day we learn something, and it's an openness to learn and admit that you don't know everything. And if you do, then absolutely wonderful. But, you know, I think for most of us, every day there's something that you learn.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that a hashtag. I'm in my own journey. Thanks for that, Nikki. So maybe we'll hear from Sarika next.
Yep. So for me, it was going back to my teaching profession. It was more so liaising with parents and parental engagement in terms of being involved with the different subject choices that a high school student might be doing. So we know that in the Australian education system, students start to think about their subject choices, the types of sciences, the types of maths they might uptake, and they might choose as an elective, which then, you know, formulates a year 12 ATAS, and then ongoing journey into picking, you know, an IT or a science or medical degree and whatnot that's available. So deep down within educating parents from the moment students enter into year 7 is something I was battling with, particularly in the area where I had parents from immigrant backgrounds, low SES backgrounds, students being raised by grandparents, English as an additional language needs, for example. So how do we bring all these parents and carers on board for educating and understanding students' strength and battling with those missed opportunities, because we really want capable students to go ahead and study IT or maths or science, different subjects based on their interests. So and to overcome that, it was more so liaising with communities. So, you know, researching, co-learning, understanding barriers and factors to empower parents, and then empower their children in turn to understand their needs and strengths and abilities to then be able to take those university STEM-based subjects. Yeah, that's from my experience. I would say that I'm still battling, and research is ongoing. As an academic, I'm passionate about research and industry partnerships. So I'm hearing all the wonderful work that you all are doing in the industry. So we need to really come up with, you know, cross-disciplinary opportunities to uplift community engagement. So we have more students taking STEM subjects at university.
That's really good, and I agree with, or I understand that, like, if the children's parents are immigrants and they may not be that familiar with how it is, how the educational system here is in Australia. I was wondering though, and not to put you on the spot, how would you empower the parents if it's the students who are you communicate with mostly? Educate me as well if I'm wrong in the understanding.
Yeah, well, we bring in the teacher voice, because the teacher knows the student more so than the parent. So it's about, you know, having those, inviting parents to those open days that we do at schools as well. From year 7 onwards, we map, as teachers, we map students' trajectories, career trajectories together. So really liaising with teachers is also important. So giving teachers a voice. And of course, opportunities. Teachers are really busy. So if any teachers out there, any university educators out there, don't blame me. You know, I know we all are busy people day in and out, but there are opportunities, selective opportunities, like having particular days where teachers and parents come together. We brainstorm solutions for the good of our students to uptake those subjects, and even having guest speakers. So I still invite technology and IT speakers in my STEM units at the university. So I empower my teachers to understand that that STEM is a real subject. It's a real world subject, and it's not just a textbook subject. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, it is a real subject, and it really takes a community to build or to raise a child, is that what they say. So thanks for sharing your experience and your advice. So maybe I'll move on to the next question. So this is open to the floor if anyone wants to talk, share some words, but everyone can also talk about what their experience is. So do you have any suggestions for advancing your careers in STEM in the field that you're involved in? Like what steps did you have to take to get to where you are now? I'm looking at Ayo.
I'm going. My turn. No, but like, to me, something that it sounds counterintuitive, but stay with me. But it's about sometimes taking a step backwards to move forward in your career, especially if you're looking to work in a field where you're new, or you kind of want to explore, you know, a different side of the business you're working at. You might need to, you know, take a job description or maybe like a job title that it doesn't sound as good, or you might need to take a pay cut just to do something that is a bit different and gain experience. It has worked for me personally. You know, when I migrated here, I sort of have to start from scratch again, and it paid out. But I think that would be, you know, my advice for someone that, you know, maybe you already have a career, but you want to maybe change careers or sort of develop some skills, you might need to sort of take a step aside and yeah, or step back and to kind of do the next thing. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's okay to take a step back and to build yourself back up again. Anyone else who would like to share a word? I'll just go through it. Maybe Aishwarya?
Yeah, I was just waiting for someone to put their hands up. But I think for me personally, I don't think you can achieve a goal till you understand the goal. And I think to understand the goal, you need to define the goal. Even if it's a small objective that you have, if you can just break it down into smaller pieces and put it together like a puzzle, it really helps you understand what you need to achieve that goal. And by need, I mean things like resources. So it could be academic resources, you upskilling with certifications, or self-learning from YouTube. It's free, it's available, and it's in different languages as well. So you can really access it from anywhere, anytime for free. There's platforms like Coursera, edX, where you can find lots of tutorials on videos. So things like this, I try to use all these free resources. And then if it's financial, then you can set goals of, how much you would need financially to achieve something. So if you need to do a diploma, you start saving for it. So just small things like that, I think, adds up. So personally, breaking down a big goal into smaller items is what's helped me so far. And I recommend trying that. It helps you not get overwhelmed by the world, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Definitely makes sense because it's easier to choose the stuff when they're smaller. So thanks for sharing that. Anyone who would like to speak?
I think I could probably just pick on Sarika's comments about, our teaching and our kids, that I think as young as primary school is where we should be focusing boys and girls about careers in STEM. The emphasis at the moment is in high school, which I think is a little bit late. And, I know we may be talking to an audience here that people are already on their journey, but you will eventually have children, or, people that have got children. And I think it's opening the eyes of kids in primary school already to what possibilities and what career choices that they can make out there. And I really, I'm quite passionate about this, that I think, if we're aiming for year 10, 9, 10, it's a little bit late already. The career choices have been made, influences have been made, where's my friend, what's she doing, what's he doing, particularly more relevant to girls because, they stick more in the humanitarian subjects, not to say they don't do STEM, but it's a very small cohort. So I think if I could have a world where we could have influence, it's in primary school kids, where we get into the schools and we say to them, like, you've got pictures of a firewoman and a fireman, and, you want to break down the stereotypes that the kids don't necessarily know, that there's a world out there for them of things that they can go and do.
Yeah, definitely start early. I remember seeing this preschool book, and there was a picture of a scientist, and it was a male scientist. So I think if we could start from changing our preschool books to maybe having, female doctors, I think that would help inspire young children and let them be aware that they can also be doctors. Thanks for that, Nikki. Sarika, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I really second everybody's thoughts and what Nikki was saying and what you mentioned about books. Yes, there are preschool books coming along, and that's why any role models out there, we're always hungry for whether it's, male or female role models, but to showcase that STEM is not a hard subject. It is so, real world and understanding problems out there. Like someone was talking about artificial intelligence and automation. I'm coming from an education background, so pardon me, I don't know the coding and the programming side of things. I know they're really it sounds hard, but why do we make it sound hard to our young students and even to teachers? So when I work with, you know, communities, they think, oh, it's just too hard. It's just really for smart people, but that's not the case. I mean, you know, everyone's smart, everyone's capable. It's about having a go and seeing if this is something that resonates with you for your, you know, career trajectory and your skills and abilities. So and anyone out there who is willing to be a role model to come and speak to my STEM pre-service teachers, I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, anyone, please reach out to Sarika if you would like to talk to her students. So I was wondering, where did it start, that stereotype that STEM subjects are hard? Like, why did people start thinking that only smart people can do STEM subjects? It's not a real question. I mean, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Yeah, so maybe we'll move on to the next question. So similar or in relation to challenges, were there any critical changes or adaptations that you had to take to overcome, so to be more, to face your future more effectively, like to be more prepared for your career that you're wanting to have? Like, how did you adapt yourself to be more ready for the career that you're
Ali, I'll give you a break and I'll go first. Then you,
aspiring?
you're going, am I, is it always me first?
Thanks, Nikki.
So, you know, I think back of the years when I started, and if there's one motto I live by is I don't need anyone's permission to give me permission to what I want to do, and do my goals and things. And once I started the company and I committed to it, I just decided I needed to educate myself as best I can, however I can. And on Aswari's point of, you know, the YouTube videos, the people that will help you, you can talk to people, you can find mentors. And to our audience listening, this is one of the most important things that I can tell you: find good mentors. And, you know, mentors don't necessarily have to be formal mentors, although of course you can have a formal relationship, but it could be informal calls that you just have with someone and you just bounce an idea off them. I think it's essential. You know, on my podcast, on episode 95, I ask all my guests, do they have mentors? And they all have mentors, and these are all highly qualified, successful people. So really, I can't emphasize that enough. Whoever you get your advice from, find people that you admire and that you think they're doing great stuff, and run some questions, buy them coffee. You know, people always like a coffee. Personal touch is always good. And yeah, I think just an answer to your STEM question there as well is that, you know, you have to apply yourself. I had maths as a final year subject at school and biology, but, you know, and I say this to everyone, all the parents that listen out there with young kids, get your kids to take STEM subjects. They don't have to have distinctions, but they must just pass so that they've got options when they're making career choices and they need some STEM subjects. Now, of course, you can, when you're at university, go and do another STEM subject, you know, to qualify for your course. But, you know, why make things difficult for yourself? And we use these subjects every single day. Like, there's not, we're going into such a technology-based future that STEM subjects are just actually essential. You know, like definitely maths is a very prerequisite. And you know, really my advice to parents, if they're parents listening, your kids don't have to have distinctions, they just need to pass it, but just let them have the subject there, because it opens up so many other avenues for them of career choices. Okay, Ali, back into you.
I'll take it from there. No, one thing I guess to add to that is, you know, the question is around, okay, how do you navigate sort of the changes? And I do agree, you know, training yourself and sort of like learning new things. I guess like the one advice or the thing that has worked for me is sort of seize the opportunity. And so we always, even in your workplace, sort of like just pay attention of, you know, what are the gaps or what things you could be learning from, right? Like there might be tasks where, you know, you can just put your hand up and just try it and do it and see if you like it, because there's no way, there's a better way to learn that actually doing it, right? And I think that mentality of that's not in my job description, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. That really, it's going to take you like so far. And again, especially working in a small business, there's a lot of things to do that you can actually learn on the job and sort of figure out what you like doing. So putting your hand up, and like worst case scenario, you did something really boring and you don't want to do that again, but at least you tried it. So yeah.
Thanks, Elle. Yeah, I agree. Like it's really it really helps you as well to go above and beyond and build up those skills, additional skills that you can learn on the job. Nikki, I've just got a question. Like, what was the podcast that you were mentioning? Someone wants to know what that podcast is.
Oh, it's called Let's Talk Robotics. And I actually started in COVID, and the podcast was actually born out of Dr. Sue Kay's 2018 Australian Robotics Roadmap. So if you're not aware that this document exists, it's available online, and we've actually completed the 2022 one that I was also involved in. But what particularly struck us about, or me, once the 2018 report came out, is how siloed Australian robotics community is. You know, half the people don't know about what they're doing, and every day I still meet people like, oh my goodness, I didn't know you existed. And it started out of that, literally. And Sue is a friend and mentor of mine, and rightly I thought she would be the appropriate first guest, and she was, and she came back as guest number at episode 50, and I'm nearly number now 100. So I've talked to some amazing people in the podcast. From different backgrounds, not all academics. I've spoken to teachers, I've spoken to Sarika. So if you want to know about Sarika's journey, listen to the podcast. I've spoken to business owners, startups, all sorts of people out there working in robotics and AI, actually. And I'm just busy with completing a series of talks now with the winners of AI. So I don't know if you're aware that this award exists, and if you're not aware of it and you want to apply for it, you should, because the 2023 awards is actually open, and it's for Australia and New Zealand. It's actually Asia Pacific next year, and I'm speaking to all the category winners there. So, and they're all women, and it's a women fest. So you'll see, if you look at my podcast, it's female male up until about the last 10 episodes. And ladies, we are just ladies. So I'm celebrating the women out there. I've got a particular soft spot for, if I can help any other women out there do anything. So if there are any women out there and you need help in any way, shape or form, hit me up. I'm sure all the other panelists here have got the same attitude, that we're there to support women and help them where we can.
Thanks for that, Nikki. Ladies, you heard that? Hit up Nikki.
Well
it's
said.
a great initiative during COVID. Yeah, and increasing awareness and the sense of community within the robotics community. Sarika, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I might just add, Nikki reminded me of, whilst talking about robotics, in terms of how fearful I was in terms of, oh my God, here we go now, it's technology, you know, it's the science and maths and all of this, and how do I now make sense of robotics, and how do I then research with my teachers and, you know, parents and all of that to come up with an age-appropriate robotics play program. And the amount of self-skilling I had to do, and of course it's a new area, so you know, you're kind of learning as you go, and trialing new strategies and resources and understanding, you know, coding. So I have my guinea pig at home, my 7-year-old, but it's, of course, the program is just not catered to early years. It's early years and now spanning into primary schooling context. But it's about self-skilling. That's I think someone mentioned in terms of getting over that syndrome that you were talking about, but just having a go. Robotics might sound very scary, at least to me, because I'm not from that IT background, but I have the passion to understand what it means from an IT background, and then marry that into the education setting. So there are so many, multidisciplinary ways that we can upskill ourselves. And in this room itself, I can see the energy and the synergies in terms of how we can learn from each other. So you've got LinkedIn, social media, and there are so many professional learning resources available on Facebook as well. So yeah. That you made me go down the memory lane, Nikki, and now I'm not fearful of robotics anymore.
I'm so happy to hear that. You're doing excellent work there. So and robotics is just it's a broad spectrum for a lot of, you've got drones under robotics, you've got cobots, you've got my particular bent is telepresence. So it's a very broad spectrum field, which you all know. So
yeah, I guess robotics is very important to consider. It's a new area. And maybe Aishwarya, if you'd like to say anything.
Yeah, talking about robotics, I think it's worth mentioning Nikki this year organized the first Generate 22 conference, which was the AI and robotics conference, and I was a part of it. I think Sarika was a part of it as well. Just want to put the word out there that it was a really good community coming together of like-minded people. So if Nikki organizes that event next year, I think there should be some form of collaboration. And this is my concept, but it would be great to see some form of collaboration between STEM Sisters and Generate 22, and have everyone from STEM Sisters participate at Generate 22 as well. Because not only do you get to meet mentors, but you also get to meet people from the industry. So there was a lot of people showcasing their products, talking about their services, sharing their business cases. So I think in terms of networking, that was amazing. And then coming back to your question on, I guess, what can we do better? I think one thing that I've seen around me when I grew up was that my parents were not like this, but lots of people around me, the parents would put a lot of pressure on not failing and always getting a 99 out of 100 grade. And this has been discussed before, but I think it's very important to not worry about what other people think of us if we fail, and worry more about what you would feel like if you failed yourself. So I always think of things like that. And then that just keeps me moving and going. So I think it's something that we need to all work on. And I know imposter syndrome is a word Nikki wants to eradicate from dictionary. I want to eradicate the word self-sabotage. Women do it more than men. Unfortunately, that's what the statistics say. We always question ourselves or compare ourselves, and that's something we all need to stop doing, because like Nikki said, it's your journey and it's different from someone else's. So yeah, that's my answer to your question, and I think there should be a collaboration between Generate 22 and STEM Sisters.
Thanks for that, Aishwarya. Ruwangi, would you like to say anything about the collaboration? Oh, we can hear you, Ruwangi, sorry.
We are very open in collaborating in all forms of shapes and ways. So of course, we will be very grateful for the opportunity. So we will talk, I'm sure it's happening next year. So we have time to plan and go ahead. Yeah, of course, because I think there are a lot of very talented, like, out of our 54 ambassadors, I think 10 to 12 of them are currently doing PhDs or recently completed their PhD. So we have a very talented bunch of 54 is just the ambassadors, but our LinkedIn group has like over 1,000 plus women in the group itself, and we have mostly in Victoria and a few from a surrounding. We have close to 3,000 type of members with STEM Sisters. So we are growing very fast, and we have not reached out to other areas as well, like Sydney, and where we could find very potential members for STEM Sisters. We hope to do that. but we will be very interested in partnering and supporting and collaborating with the upcoming conference in next year, of course.
Thank you. So Ashwari, now you're on the committee as well, now that you've dobbed everyone in.
I love it. The collaboration's forming in this panel discussion.
Yeah. Unintended consequence.
Very good consequence. Yeah. So I'm aware of the time, so maybe we'll move to the last question for tonight. So maybe if everyone could just give us one piece of practical advice to someone who's just starting out in the field. So anything that you would have wanted to know when you were starting out, or anything that you could share to everyone in the meeting tonight? Anyone can start as well.
I'll go because why not? I guess this is more for like anyone in any industry, but I think it's something that I try sort of communicating to my team and just always have a mentality that everyone you work with, it's a client, right? And bear with me, but it doesn't matter if like they're actually your clients, if they're your boss, if they're your peer, if they're like someone in your team that you manage. Just having that mentality of, you know, you have someone that you're delivering to, and you have to be accountable for what you committed to do, because that's going to be credibility in your work environment and in your team. Like you could be really good at, technically, you could be really good at any sort of like hard skills. You could be great at coding, or you could be, I don't know, amazing at whatever it is that you do. But if you really don't build that credibility in your team and your trust, you're really not going to get very far. So just being really aware of your personal brand and what do you want people to know you for. And it's not only going to be your technical skills. So I think that will be probably my advice if you're just getting it started.
Yeah, soft skills are as important, or maybe more important than hard skills. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone who would like to jump in?
I'll continue the flow. So I'll go next. I think the most important thing is to understand that it's okay not to know. It's okay if you don't have all the answers, but it's important to do your research. So as much as knowledge you can accumulate about anything, even if it's a problem, not necessarily a solution, it's important to dissect that problem, right? So I think you have to be obsessed a little bit with what you're trying to reach. And to reach that, you need to basically research as much as you can. And once your research ends, you can start reaching out to people who've already done what you want to do, get their advice. And if they can't help you, they'll definitely connect you with someone that they know who might be able to help you. Because I've learned that Australia, and especially Melbourne, is a very friendly community. Everyone tries to help everyone. So as long as you're reaching out to people, I'm sure you can find some solution somewhere. So just take that step, reach out to people, and then your future basically unfolds. So that's my advice to everyone who's starting fresh.
Thanks for that, Ashwara. So we've got soft skills, networking skills, so reach out to people. Wonder what's the next advice would be?
Well, I could probably add to it, you know, as we with STEM sisters here, is don't expect favors, you know, don't expect people to do stuff for you. It is a very nice and willing community, but you do have to put in the work, you know. So I'd say coupled with that, get a little bit of a hard or tough skin, you know, don't take things too personally, and things do tend to go wrong. And, you know, especially now in COVID times, you know, communication, it's on a new level of how we communicate with each other. And, you know, people may or may not get back to you via email. You know, if they don't the first time, try again, pick up the phone. Like, there are many ways of getting hold of people. And this is coupled to get a little bit of a thick skin, you know, like, don't assume they don't want to talk to you because they're not getting back to you. You're just not maybe high on their priorities. So, you know, push through. If things are important to you, what's important to me may not be important to you, but because it's important to me, I can push through and I can keep on following up. So Yeah, I think, I mean, I could probably give a whole long lecture, but like, let's keep it at that. Sarika will have other things to add.
Go ahead, Nikki. Go ahead.
Thanks for that, Nikki. It's important to be adaptable and to not take things personally. So yeah, not take things personally. What about Sarika? Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'll probably just sum it up in terms of what everybody has mentioned. It seems to me everything could fall under building a community of practice. And that can happen only when we, try to reach out to people like mentors and building that, the support system around you. But the support systems will not come to you. We have to go and reach out. Who knew that I will be in this panel event as a STEM education professional and learning and speaking to multidisciplinary experts? That happened only because I developed a community of practice around me and understanding and being a lifelong learner. So things can go wrong, like Aishwarya said, if things happen, it fails, but we just keep co-learning if we've got that support system and community of practice around us.
Yeah, I agree. It's important to have that support system around us, and we have to build it ourselves. We can't expect other people to build that for us. Any last words from any of our panelists like to add? Yeah, not to put any pressure, but yeah, if there's nothing else, I'll move the floor to Lapna, who will talk about the next part of our night tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your words and wisdom that you shared with everyone tonight.
Thank you.
Well, this conversation is so brilliant and so enlightening. And I guess our audience would agree with me that we have learned a lot from the experience that the panel shared today. So thank you again for all of the experience that you have shared, all the stories about your journey. They are very inspiring. And before I moved on to the next section of the event, which is about the Q&A, I think that it's really good to let the other ambassador introduce a little bit more about the STEM sister ambassadors and what we have done so far, so that later on the audience can ask questions either linked to the panelists or the STEM sister ambassador as well. So can I start with Amna first?
Thanks, Tassie. Thanks so much. So thanks for the fruitful discussion, all the speakers. Thanks so much. I, as a STEM Sisters ambassador, experienced organizing the different events where we got a chance to communicate and interact with such a beautiful motivational speakers out there, including Nikki, Ali, Sarika, Aishwarya, Amanda, and so on. So thanks to Ruwangi. Thanks so much.
Yes, and can I move on to Lakna?
Hi everyone, I'm Lakna. So as a STEM Sisters ambassador, I got the opportunity to design comic books for STEM carriers, and also like to network with a lot of people from various STEM industries, and more importantly, to organize the event, to be part of a team, and also to get in touch with Study Melbourne. So thank you.
Yep, and can I move on to Matt now as well?
Yeah, so being a STEM Sisters ambassador has taught me different aspects of organizing workshops. And also I gained some networking skills, and also I developed confidence along the way, which I found to be very important in navigating through different things in life.
And I just want to add to that STEM Sister Ambassadors also get involved in creating the magazines where we can try to expand, and also we try to develop the STEM industry, especially to develop the participations of women in the STEM industry as well. So thank you all to share your experience relating to the STEM Sister Ambassadors. And now back to Lakna to conduct the Q&A sessions where the audience can have the opportunity to ask questions to our amazing panelists here, and also anything relating to STEM Sister Ambassador as well.
Yeah, thank you, Stacey. So I thank all the panelists for the wonderful discussion that we had today. And also, I would like to ask the audience if they have any questions for the panel members. So we would welcome anyone to directly unmute themselves and speak to our panelists, or you can send your questions in the chat box.
Actually, can I ask the question? So I just want to go first. So just have a question, like if you won't have the opportunity to go back in time, is there anything that you regret, that you want to fix it, or you want to change it in your journey in the STEM industry? So yeah, any panelists want to share about it? And I think we have question in the chat box from the audience as well.
I'll give this a go. I don't think it's anything but I think it's general life advice, and that we must be very careful about the language we use around ourselves. You know, I started my introduction tonight saying I'm not from a STEM background, meaning, you know, I'm not an engineer, but if you didn't listen to me carefully, you could assume that I know absolutely nothing about it. So I think the image that we want to portray to people, you must be careful about the language you use, and just be mindful. I think this is just generally anyway in life, that, you know, just be mindful of the language that you use, because it has a huge impact on not only you, but the audience that's listening to you.
I'll probably add on in terms of how we've covered off saying, you know, overdoing it, comparing ourselves to others. We all have done it, at least I've done it. So had I not done it, I would have been not going in the rabbit hole of, you know, feeling that I'm not doing enough. So becoming anxious. It's about doing what you can and having the confidence that what I'm doing is many steps towards achieving my bigger goal. And yes, so just having that confidence.
I'll add one to that. I think especially in the startup space, and if you're working for an employer, I think the hustle culture is sometimes in fashion. And so people really take pride in saying, oh, I'm hustling so much, I'm doing so much. But I think that's not the best way to exist. I think a little bit of balance is important. So even though hustling is cool, I think it's good to balance it off with some rest as well. And I used to not do that in the past. So if there's one thing I could change, I would go back and, you know, rest a little bit more than I didn't. So it's important to make sure you take care of your mental health. And like Sarika said, anxiety, right? I think all of us face it, especially through COVID. It's something that everyone struggled with in their own ways. It doesn't have to be extreme that you have to go to a therapist, but I think it's very important to take care of your mental health and your physical health while you're trying to get things done. So that's one thing I would recommend everyone to be mindful of.
Thanks, Aishwarya, for that. So, Elle, do you like to add something more?
No, I don't think so. I think this, when we talk about like mistakes as well, it's just like allow yourself to make mistakes, right? Like, you're not always gonna get it right. And I guess even if you've made a mistake, things turn out in a way, they turn out fine anyway. Like you kind of like find your way anyway. And because of those mistakes, maybe you're here now. So I guess, yeah, I don't really, nothing to add. Yeah.
So we had a question in the chat from the audience. So it was from Jane. So Jane,
yes, but I asked the same question you did. So great minds think alike.
Yeah, so thanks, Jane, for the question. And also, I'd like to ask Nikki. So you're going to be organizing Generate 2023, and you spoke about that you like to collaborate with STEM sisters as well. So do you like to share a little bit more about the conference and what is the procedure of that?
Sure. Generate 22, which was this year, so obviously Generate 23 next year. It's a collaboration between industry, academia, and students and educators. So the conference was over 2 days. We had a stream of speakers come and present in a different field: drones, automation, academics, like a whole variety of topics. And then we had industry collaborators there, which included Bosch, Anchor, which was my main sponsor, IFM. We probably about 7 or 8, actually there were more than 7 or 8 companies there. But the end of the day, and we had Melbourne University there, we had well, all the universities were invited, let's put it that way, and they brought their robotic stuff there. So at the end of the day, what was the real success for us, and Amna, who is a STEM sister there, I may just give her a plug, works for me and was a great help with the event. We managed to secure 10 internships just by the students attending and the industry people being there and talking to them, because everyone that attended were literally the cream. They were really talented. They were doing something there. So it was industry didn't have to go out and look for these people. These students were there, so it was just a natural marriage. So I'm very, very happy with the success of, 10 internships being placed. I think someone got a job out of it. We had about 250 people attend over the 2 days, which I took great heart in, because it was in just the tail, I can't even say the tail end of COVID, but, we were sort of opening up in Melbourne. And for a first event, I think it was perfect. So we've got big plans for Generate 23, which at this stage we're going to be having next year in September. And I think it's going to be over 2 days again. So look, I'd love to collaborate with you, with the STEM sisters. I think you could add great value there of the work that you're doing, and a great example for students, because I've got a lot of school kids that come to this. This is actually my target audience. It's school kids and university students to come in and see what industry's got to present, what's on offer for jobs. So if you went and worked at Anchor, which is a huge manufacturing engineering company in Melbourne, what sort of jobs would you get from them?
Thank you, Nikki. So I think it's going to be a very wonderful event with collaboration from industry and as well as academia and the schools being involved. So we would really appreciate that you invited us for the collaboration, and so looking forward to participate in that next year.
Fabulous.
And yeah, so as we don't have any more questions from the audience, I think we can conclude this session now. And yes, so thank you everyone for joining us today. And it was a very, I think, fruitful discussion we had. And it is great to have you all here. So the event is all recorded, and in case you would like to watch it, you may find it in our social media websites. So yeah, have a good night.
Thank you for having us, guys. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, STEM sisters. Bye-bye.